Apache girl warned, "I fall for men who work hard." The country boy smiled, "Then I'll work double." She had learned early in life to be careful with her heart. Growing up as an Apache girl, she had seen enough stories around her to know that words could sound sweet but disappear quickly. People promised effort, loyalty, and care, but when life became difficult, many of them slowly faded away. Because of this, she became someone who listened more than she spoke and watched actions more than expressions. She was not cold, but she was cautious. She smiled easily, yet trusted slowly. Her days were busy. She balanced family responsibilities, work, and community life. She believed that real character showed itself during ordinary moments, not during big speeches. When someone talked too much about dreams without doing the work, she quietly stepped back. Over time, she learned that the people who truly cared never needed to announce it. They simply showed up. The country boy entered her life on an ordinary day. There was nothing dramatic about their first meeting. It happened at a local gathering where neighbors helped organize food, clean the space, and support one another. He was not loud or attention-seeking. He worked quietly, moving chairs, carrying boxes, and helping elders without being asked. His clothes were simple, his hands rough from labor, and his posture relaxed. He did not try to impress anyone. He was simply doing what needed to be done. She noticed him because of that. While others joked or checked their phones, he kept working. When someone thanked him, he nodded and continued. There was a calm confidence in him that did not demand attention. She watched from a distance at first, not curious in a romantic way, but observant. She wondered what kind of person worked that way when no one was watching. Later, their paths crossed naturally. He offered her a bottle of water after noticing she had been busy for hours. It was a small gesture, but it felt thoughtful. They exchanged a few words, nothing deep. He asked about her day and she answered honestly. There was no pressure in his voice, no hidden intention. That made her comfortable enough to talk a little longer. As they spoke, she realized he was a listener. He did not interrupt or rush her words. When she finished speaking, he responded simply, without trying to sound clever. That alone set him apart from many people she had met before. Still, she reminded herself not to assume anything. One conversation meant nothing. Consistency meant everything. At some point, the conversation turned light and playful. Someone nearby made a joke about relationships, and laughter followed. Without planning to, she said something that had become her habit. Half smiling, she looked at him and said she had a weakness for men who worked hard. The words sounded casual, almost like a joke, but for her, they carried weight. It was her way of being honest without opening her heart too quickly. It was a warning, not an invitation. She expected different reactions. Some men laughed nervously, others tried to brag. A few became defensive. She had seen it all before, but the country boy simply smiled. It was not a proud smile or a challenging one. It was calm and genuine. After a short pause, he replied that he would work double. He said it lightly, without drama, as if effort was a normal part of life. His response surprised her, not because of the words, but because of the way he said them. There was no promise behind it, no attempt to win her over. It sounded more like a reflection of who he already was. She did not respond right away. Instead, she nodded and changed the topic. Inside, however, she felt something shift. Not excitement, but curiosity. She went home that evening thinking about the day. Not just about him, but about the moment itself. She reminded herself that many people knew how to say the right thing. Words were easy. She told herself not to attach meaning too soon. Still, she could not ignore the feeling that his smile had been different. It had not tried to take anything from her. It had simply existed. Over the next few days, she saw him again around the community. Each time he was doing something useful, helping repair a fence, carrying supplies, checking on neighbors. He never seemed rushed, yet always busy. He greeted her politely, never pushing conversation, never acting familiar too quickly. That balance made her feel respected. She noticed that he treated everyone the same way. Elders, children, strangers. There was no performance. When work was finished, he stayed until everything was done. When something went wrong, he fixed it quietly. People trusted him without realizing why. It was because he had earned it through action. For her, trust had always been fragile. She had once believed effort could fade, that hard work only lasted until comfort arrived. But watching him, she wondered if she had been wrong. Or maybe she had just not met someone like him before. She still kept her distance. She laughed with him, spoke casually, but never leaned too close. She did not ask about his future or his past. She believed that time would reveal everything naturally. If he was only working hard to impress her, it would show eventually. If it was part of who he was, it would remain. The country boy, on the other hand, did not seem to notice her careful steps. Or maybe he did and respected them. He never questioned her boundaries. He never asked why she was cautious. He simply continued living his life the same way he always had. Work, responsibility, rest, repeat. One evening, as the sun lowered and the sky turned soft, she saw him sitting alone, tired but peaceful. His hands were dirty, his shoulders heavy, yet his expression was calm. In that moment, she understood something important. Hard work was not just about strength. It was about patience, humility, and endurance. She realized that her warning had not been a challenge after all. It was a truth about herself. She did fall for men who worked hard, not because of attraction alone, but because effort felt safe to her. It felt real. And for the first time in a long while, she wondered if safety could grow into something deeper. She did not know where this connection would lead. She did not imagine a future or make plans. She only knew that something ordinary had begun. Not with grand words or dramatic moments, but with quiet effort and an honest smile. And sometimes, she thought, that was how the most meaningful stories started. Life moved forward quietly after those first meetings, but something had already changed beneath the surface. The Apache girl returned to her daily routine, yet she began noticing small details more than before. She noticed who stayed late to finish work and who left early. She noticed who complained and who kept going. And without trying to, she kept noticing the country boy. He did not suddenly appear everywhere or try to place himself in her path. Instead, he stayed exactly where he had always been, working. Early mornings often found him already busy while others were still waking up. He helped on farms, repaired broken tools, and took on tasks most people avoided. If someone needed help moving something heavy or fixing a problem, his name came up naturally. Not because he asked for attention, but because people trusted his effort. She watched all of this quietly. She did not ask questions. She believed that asking too much too soon could break the truth. She preferred to see things with her own eyes. Every time she saw him, he was doing something useful. Even when the work was tiring, he did not show frustration. When mistakes happened, he corrected them without anger. That steadiness stayed in her mind. One afternoon, the community faced an unexpected problem. A storm had damaged a shared area, and many people were unsure how to handle it. Some talked about what should be done, while others waited for instructions. The country boy did not wait. He picked up tools and began working immediately. Slowly, others joined him. He did not give orders, he led by example. By the end of the day, the place looked better than before. She had been there too, helping where she could. At one point, she grew tired and sat down to rest. He noticed and handed her water again, just like before. There was no conversation, no moment made out of it, just care shown quietly. That stayed with her more than any compliment could have. As days turned into weeks, they spoke more often but always naturally. Their conversations were simple. They talked about work, weather, family, and daily life. He never exaggerated his struggles or turned himself into a hero. When she asked how his day had been, he answered honestly, sometimes saying it was hard, sometimes saying it was good. He never pretended things were easy when they were not. She began to realize that his hard work was not something he turned on or off. It was part of his rhythm. Even when no one was watching, he did the same. This made her feel calm in a way she had not felt before. Calm, not excited. Steady, not rushed. That was new to her. Still, her past made her careful. She had seen people change once they felt secure. She had seen effort fade into comfort. So she kept reminding herself not to assume anything. She told herself that consistency over time was the only thing that mattered. One good month meant nothing. A pattern meant everything. The country boy never pressured her. He never asked where things were going. He never demanded her time. If she was busy, he understood. If she needed space, he gave it. This made her feel respected, not chased. For her, that respect mattered deeply. There were days when he worked longer than usual. He took on extra tasks when others could not. When someone fell sick, he covered their work without complaint. People started to rely on him more and his workload increased naturally. She noticed this and wondered if he ever felt tired of giving so much. One evening, she finally asked him why he worked so hard. She expected a simple answer. Instead, he paused for a moment. He said that work gave his days meaning. That effort kept him grounded. He explained that he had grown up believing that you take care of what is in front of you, not because someone is watching, but because it is the right thing to do. His answer stayed with her long after the conversation ended. It was not dramatic. It was not romantic. It was honest. And honesty, she believed, was rare. As more time passed, she noticed something else. He did not just work with his hands. He worked with his presence. When people were stressed, he listened. When someone was upset, he stayed nearby without forcing words. He understood that not all problems needed solutions. Some only needed patience. She began to feel herself relax around him. Her guard did not disappear, but it softened. She laughed more easily. She spoke more freely. Still, she did not rush anything. She believed that slow growth was stronger than sudden connection. Others in the community began to notice them too, not in a dramatic way, but in quiet glances and small smiles. Still, nothing was spoken aloud. Neither of them changed their behavior. They continued as they were, letting time do its work. One day, the country boy took on a job that was clearly too much for one person. She saw the exhaustion in his movements and felt a small concern rise inside her. She offered to help, even though she was tired herself. He accepted without hesitation, grateful but not proud. They worked side by side in silence, sharing effort instead of words. That moment mattered to her more than she realized. It was the first time she felt like effort could be shared, not just observed. It made her think that maybe hard work was not only about endurance, but also about balance. That night, she thought about his smile again. The one he gave when she warned him. She wondered if he remembered that moment the same way she did. She wondered if he was truly working double for her, or if he had always lived this way. The thought brought her a quiet sense of peace. She knew there would be challenges ahead. Life was never simple, but for the first time in a long while, she felt that effort did not scare her. It comforted her. And as she watched the country boy continue his steady work, she realized that sometimes the strongest connections are built not through promises, but through the quiet decision to keep showing up every day. As time passed, the space between them slowly filled with understanding. Nothing changed suddenly. There was no clear moment when trust appeared. Instead, it grew quietly, like something built one small piece at a time. The Apache girl still carried her caution with her, but it no longer felt heavy. It felt thoughtful. She was learning that protecting her heart did not mean closing it completely. She began to notice how the country boy handled moments that tested patience. When plans failed or work did not go as expected, he did not lose control or blame others. He adjusted and continued. That calm response stood out to her. She had seen people work hard only when things went their way. When pressure arrived, their effort disappeared. With him, pressure seemed to make him more focused, not less. One day, a misunderstanding spread through the community about a task that had gone wrong. Voices rose and frustration filled the air. She watched closely, curious how he would react. Instead of defending himself loudly, he listened. He let others speak first. When it was his turn, he explained calmly and accepted responsibility where needed, even for things that were not entirely his fault. That moment stayed with her. She realized that strength was not loud. Sometimes it was quiet and steady. Her own past made moments like that difficult for her. She had learned to expect disappointment. Trust for her had always been temporary. She believed that once people felt comfortable, they stopped trying. But with him, comfort did not lead to carelessness. It led to deeper effort. That challenged what she thought she knew about people. Their conversations slowly became more personal, though still gentle. They talked about childhood memories, about lessons learned the hard way, about moments that shaped them. He never pushed her to share more than she wanted. When she paused or changed the subject, he followed without question. That respect allowed her to open up naturally, without fear. She told him once that she struggled to trust consistency. She did not explain everything, but she shared enough. He did not respond with promises or reassurances. He simply said he understood that trust takes time. That simple answer meant more to her than any long explanation. It told her he was willing to wait. There were days when she pulled back without realizing it. Old habits returned when she felt uncertain. She became quieter, more distant. In the past, this had pushed people away or caused conflict. With him, nothing changed. He stayed the same. He greeted her kindly, respected her space, and continued his work. His steadiness made it easier for her to come back without feeling guilty or questioned. Slowly, she began to trust not just his effort, but his patience. Patience was something she valued deeply. It meant he was not rushing toward an outcome. He was present in the moment. That presence felt safe. She noticed that he did not only work hard when it benefited him. He worked hard even when the task was unseen, even when there was no reward. When someone needed help late at night, he showed up. When work went unnoticed, he did not complain. That consistency built something solid inside her. It made her believe that effort could be dependable. At the same time, she began to see the cost of his hard work. His body showed signs of tiredness. His silence sometimes carried weight. She wondered if he ever felt overwhelmed. She began to worry, not out of obligation but out of care. This feeling surprised her. It told her that her heart was slowly becoming involved, even if she had not planned it. One evening, she asked him if he ever felt like giving up. The question was quiet, but it mattered to her. He thought for a long moment before answering. He said that he felt tired sometimes, but he believed that giving effort was better than giving excuses. He explained that effort did not mean ignoring rest, but it did mean staying committed. His words were simple, but they reflected deep understanding. She realized then that his work was not about proving anything to her. It was about who he chose to be every day. That realization removed a fear she had been carrying. She had worried that his effort would disappear once it was no longer needed. Now, she saw that it was not something he turned on for her. It existed long before her and would exist beyond her. As trust grew, she allowed herself to rely on him in small ways. She asked for help when she needed it, something she rarely did. Each time he responded without hesitation, but also without making her feel dependent. He helped, then stepped back. That balance mattered to her. There were moments of silence between them that felt comfortable. They did not always need words. Sometimes, they simply worked side by side or sat quietly after a long day. Those moments taught her that connection did not always need conversation. Sometimes shared presence was enough. She noticed how he looked at her, not with expectation but with awareness. He saw her effort too. He noticed when she was tired. He appreciated her work without comparing it to his own. That mutual respect strengthened what they were building. Still, she reminded herself that trust was not something given all at once. She allowed it to grow at its own pace. She did not rush herself. She did not rush him. She believed that what lasted took time. Others around them sensed the change, not through words but through energy. There was a quiet understanding between them that did not need explanation. They moved around each other naturally, without tension or confusion. One day, she realized that she no longer watched him to see if his effort would stop. She trusted that it would continue. That realization felt freeing. It meant she was no longer guarding herself against disappointment. She was allowing possibility. She understood then that trust was not built through grand gestures. It was built through repeated, ordinary choices, showing up, listening, working through difficulty without leaving. The country boy had done all of that without asking for recognition. As she reflected on how far things had come, she felt a calm confidence grow inside her. She was not certain about the future, but she was certain about the present. And for the first time, that felt like enough. She knew challenges would come. Life always tested what people built, but she also knew that effort, when real, did not disappear at the first sign of difficulty. Watching him day after day had taught her that. Trust, she realized, was not something she had to force herself to give. It was something he had already earned quietly through patience and work. And as she allowed that truth to settle, she understood that what they were building was not fragile. It was steady. And sometimes, steady was the strongest foundation of all. Life did not slow down just because trust had grown between them. In fact, as their connection became stronger, the weight of responsibility around them seemed to increase. Work demands grew heavier, and expectations from others became louder. The country boy was now someone people depended on regularly. When problems came up, they looked for him first. When extra effort was needed, his name was mentioned without hesitation. The Apache girl noticed this change clearly. She saw how his days became longer and his nights shorter. He still woke up early and returned late, carrying tiredness in his body. Yet his behavior toward others did not change. He remained patient, respectful, and focused. But she could see that the load he carried was no longer light. At first, she admired his strength. She believed that hard work was part of who he was, and she respected it deeply. But slowly, admiration mixed with concern. She began to wonder how long one person could keep giving without breaking. She had seen people push themselves too far in the past, thinking effort alone could solve everything. Often, it ended in exhaustion and silence. There were moments when she wanted to tell him to slow down, but she held back. She did not want to sound controlling or demanding. She understood that his work gave him purpose. Still, the worry stayed with her. One evening, after a long day, she noticed him struggling to hide his tiredness. His movements were slower, his eyes heavier. She asked if he was okay. He smiled and said he was fine, but she knew that smile. It was the kind people use to protect others from worry. That night she went home feeling unsettled. The next few days were difficult. A major responsibility fell on his shoulders, and he accepted it without question. The work required focus, time, and physical effort. She watched him push himself harder than before. People praised him, thanked him, and depended on him even more. But few noticed the cost. She decided she could not stay silent anymore. One quiet afternoon, she spoke to him honestly. She told him she admired his effort but worried about his health and balance. She explained that working double should not mean losing himself completely. Her voice was calm, not accusing. She spoke from care, not fear. He listened carefully, just as he always did. He did not interrupt or defend himself. When she finished, he nodded slowly. He admitted that he had been feeling tired but believed the work needed to be done. He said he did not want to let anyone down. That answer revealed something important to her. His effort came from responsibility, not pride. Their conversation did not end with solutions. It ended with understanding. For the first time, he allowed himself to admit that the pressure was real. And for the first time, she allowed herself to be part of that weight, not just an observer. Still, the pressure did not disappear. There were days when misunderstandings caused tension between them. Sometimes his exhaustion made him quieter than usual. Sometimes her worry turned into silence. These moments were uncomfortable. In the past, such silence would have led to distance. This time it became a test. Instead of walking away, they stayed. When silence appeared, they returned to conversation later. When frustration surfaced, they spoke calmly instead of blaming. It was not easy. There were moments when both felt misunderstood. But neither chose to leave. She learned that loving someone who worked hard meant learning patience in a new way. It meant understanding that effort did not always look perfect. Sometimes it looked messy and tired. She realized that real connection was not built only during calm days, but during stressful ones. The country boy also began to change in small ways. He started learning when to pause. He accepted help instead of taking everything alone. When someone else could handle a task, he stepped back. This did not come naturally to him, but he tried. Not because someone told him to, but because he understood that strength also meant knowing limits. She noticed these changes and felt relief. It showed her that he was willing to grow, not just endure. Growth mattered to her. It meant the future would not depend on sacrifice alone, but on shared effort. There were days when everything felt heavy again. Work problems, family expectations, and personal doubts did not disappear, but now they faced them together. Sometimes that meant working side by side. Other times it meant sitting quietly, letting the day pass. One evening, after a particularly difficult week, they sat outside as the sky darkened. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, he said he never realized how much pressure he carried until someone cared enough to notice. That sentence stayed with her. It told her that her presence mattered, not just her patience. She responded by saying she never expected perfection. She only wanted honesty and balance. She explained that she did not fall for effort that destroyed people. She fell for effort that built life. Her words were simple, but they carried truth. That conversation became a turning point. Not because everything became easy afterward, but because they understood each other better. He understood that his value was not measured only by how much he worked. She understood that caring also meant allowing someone to face challenges in their own way. As time passed, they developed a rhythm. Work was still demanding, but it was no longer overwhelming. When pressure increased, they communicated. When tiredness appeared, they rested. They learned that balance was not something achieved once, but something adjusted again and again. Others noticed the change too. The country boy still worked hard, but with more awareness. The Apache girl still valued effort, but with deeper understanding. Together, they showed that strength did not mean ignoring difficulty. It meant facing it with honesty. There were still moments of doubt. She sometimes worried that old patterns might return. He sometimes worried that slowing down might disappoint others. But instead of letting those worries grow quietly, they spoke about them. That openness prevented small fears from becoming large problems. Through all of this, their bond deepened. Not through dramatic moments, but through everyday choices. Choosing to talk instead of withdrawing. Choosing to listen instead of assuming. Choosing to rest instead of pushing endlessly. She realized that the warning she once gave had changed meaning. It was no longer about falling for hardworking men. It was about falling for someone who understood effort and care equally. Someone who could work hard and still remain present. He realized that working double did not mean carrying everything alone. It meant giving effort wisely and accepting support when needed. That lesson did not weaken him, it strengthened him. As they moved forward, life remained uncertain as it always is, but what they had built felt real. It was shaped by pressure, tested by exhaustion, and strengthened by honesty. They had learned that love was not just about showing strength, but about allowing vulnerability. And in that understanding, they found something deeper than admiration. They found partnership. Time continued to move forward, steady and quiet, just like the life they were building together. There was no single moment when everything felt complete. Instead, there were many small moments that slowly formed something strong. The Apache girl often found herself thinking about how far they had come, not in distance, but in understanding. The country boy still worked hard. That part of him never disappeared, but his work no longer felt like a burden he carried alone. He had learned to pause when needed and to accept help without feeling weak. This change did not happen overnight. It came through many small choices, made again and again. Each time he chose balance, it showed growth. She noticed these changes with quiet appreciation. She did not praise him loudly or make a big deal out of it. She knew he did not work for praise. Still, she made sure he knew she saw his effort. Sometimes it was through words. Sometimes it was through presence. Sometimes it was simply by sitting beside him after a long day. Their conversations became deeper, not because they talked more, but because they listened better. They spoke honestly about fears, hopes, and limits. When one of them felt unsure, the other did not rush to fix it. They allowed space for those feelings to exist. This created trust that felt calm instead of fragile. The Apache girl realized something important about herself during this time. She had always believed that love meant watching closely, always preparing for disappointment. But now she found herself relaxed in ways she had not been before. She no longer measured effort constantly. She trusted what she had seen over time. That trust gave her peace. She remembered the warning she had once given him. At the time, it had been a shield, a way to protect herself from empty promises. Now it felt like the beginning of a lesson she needed to learn. Hard work mattered, but so did intention, balance, and care. And he had shown all of those without being asked. The country boy, too, reflected on that early moment. He had smiled and spoken lightly, but the meaning behind his words had grown over time. He realized that working double was not about proving worth. It was about choosing responsibility with purpose. It was about showing up, not just physically, but emotionally. There were still challenges. Life did not become simple just because they understood each other better. There were financial worries, family pressures, and unexpected changes. Some days felt heavy. Some plans did not work out. But when difficulties appeared, they faced them together instead of apart. When disagreements happened, they no longer scared her. She understood that conflict did not mean failure. It meant two people learning. They spoke calmly, even when emotions were strong. They avoided harsh words and focused on solutions. This approach did not remove pain completely, but it prevented lasting damage. Over time, people around them noticed the stability they shared, not in loud displays, but in the way they supported each other quietly. The country boy remained dependable. The Apache girl remained thoughtful and strong. Together, they created a sense of calm that others respected. One evening, after finishing a long day of work, they walked slowly under the open sky. The air was cool and the world felt peaceful. They did not speak much. Words were not always necessary. In that silence, she felt something she had not felt before. She felt settled. She realized that love did not arrive like a sudden storm. It grew like steady ground beneath her feet. It did not ask her to leap without looking. It allowed her to walk forward with confidence. She thought about the past versions of herself, the one who guarded her heart tightly. She did not judge that version. She understood why she had needed protection, but she also understood that growth meant knowing when to lower the walls. The country boy had never tried to push them down. He had simply waited until she was ready. He, too, had changed. He learned that strength was not measured only by how much he could carry. It was measured by how well he could share. He learned that rest was not failure. It was part of effort. This understanding made his work more meaningful, not less. As seasons changed, their bond continued to deepen. They planned carefully, knowing life could shift at any time. They did not rush decisions. They trusted their process. Each step was taken with thought, not pressure. She often noticed how naturally he fit into her life. Not by force, but by consistency. He respected her independence and supported her choices. He did not try to lead or follow blindly. They walked beside each other. One day, she told him something simple but important. She said that she trusted him. The words were quiet, but they carried weight. He understood what they meant. Trust was not given lightly by her. It was earned through time, patience, and effort. He responded with the same calm honesty he always had. He said he would continue to show up, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. There was no promise of perfection, only commitment to effort and growth. That answer felt right to her. She did not need grand vows. She needed truth. And truth, she had learned, often came in simple words. As they moved forward, she realized that her warning had transformed into understanding. She no longer fell for hard work alone. She valued the way effort was given, the reasons behind it, and the care that came with it. He realized that smiling and saying he would work double had been easy. Living it with balance had been the real challenge, and it was one he continued to face willingly. Their story did not end with a dramatic conclusion. It continued day by day, shaped by choices and care. It was not perfect, it was real, and that reality felt stronger than any promise. Looking back, the Apache girl smiled to herself. She had not fallen for words. She had fallen for consistency, for patience, for someone who understood that love was built, not claimed. And the country boy, still smiling the same quiet smile, kept working. Not to prove anything, but to live honestly. Together, they moved forward, knowing that the strongest stories are not written in loud moments, but in the quiet decision to keep showing up every single day.